My name is Harrison Francisco. I'm 22 years old. Currently, I'm just doing real estate. I'm in school for computer science. Growing up was pretty shaky, I guess. From like birth to middle school, I was raised in the church. My dad was a pastor, worship leader, youth group leader. He did all the things you could ever imagine. Then after middle school is when a big divorce happened, and I figured out a lot of stuff was lies in my life, and that's when I didn't believe in God or the church or anything like that. And so I had to have a lot of good history of a really strong Christian foundation, and then kind of just put it all behind me. And it was more of my parents' relationship with God and not mine. I was homeschooled my whole life. Right before I went to school is when the big divorce happened, and I really struggled with believing in God because I didn't understand how a man that is supposed to be the best in the church, the worship leader, the pastor, a man that does all these great things, how that could be possible for him to fail. Because I feel like as kids we see our parents as perfect, and so when they mess up, it wrecks our whole world. So it was really difficult for me to continue believing in God when if a man like my dad could mess up, how could I amount to that? How could I even follow God? And if being a pastor isn't good enough, or being a worship leader isn't good enough, or doing all the big church things, if you do all those things, how is it even possible to follow God? I kind of just said God wasn't real, and definitely turned around and just wanted to do everything opposite. I wanted to go party with my friends. I started smoking weed and doing drugs and just drinking, and I just turned away and wanted nothing to do with God and nothing to do with my friends that were worship leaders or friends that were in youth groups or anything like that. It was just, to me, it was a waste of time. I think what it was that I had a big problem with a lot of Christians judging. A lot of people from my old church started not hanging out with me or looking at me like I was weird because I started partying or stuff like that, and I started cursing and listening to rap and doing all this non-Christian stuff. And so it was right before my senior year. It was my, I guess, football season, junior year. We had a homecoming game, and I wanted to throw a party at my house and wanted to have alcohol and all this other stuff and just do all this crazy stuff. And so I threw a party after this homecoming game, and teachers found out, kids got drunk. It was kind of messy, and so I got suspended. And I think that's when I started to question if I was doing good or not. I lost a chance at becoming an all-state player. During my suspension, my principal and the president of the school board, he asked me out to lunch. I was like, why does this guy want to meet with lunch? Like, I'm just a bad kid. Like, I labeled myself as a bad kid. So we went and got lunch with him, and he shared his whole story and told me not to give up, and that he told me I wasn't a bad kid, and that gave me some hope. And the day I came back from my suspension, my middle school football coach, another one of my principals, and my history teacher, they would see me in the hall and they'd be like, hey Harry, like, what's up? Like, I missed you so much. And like, they would give me a huge hug. And I think that's when I realized, I guess that's what real Christian love is the fact that I didn't come back and they labeled me as a bad kid. I came back and they just welcomed me with warm arms. And that's when I realized that that's really to be accepted, even though I messed up and I was forgiven. They showed me forgiveness that God's always shown me. And that's when I really started to turn things around. I'd say my relationship with God is pretty rock solid. Obviously, it's always a work in progress. You know, ever since that moment, it became more of my decision. It was more of my relationship with God, not my parents. I think trust is a huge thing, and faith. God is teaching me a lot of trusting in Him and believing in Him, and that everything's gonna be okay and being taken care of. I mean, just last year in 2022, I lost one of my friends to a car accident, and then I got hit by a drunk driver, and I had to get back surgery. And it was just a lot of constantly trusting in God and believing in that. And then later that year, my dad passed away, and he got hit by a drunk driver. And a lot of that wrecked me emotionally, but trusting in God and just knowing that he was gonna take care of me made that year possible. I'm surprised that I'm standing here today, but I know like I wouldn't be here without God.